Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, ladies and gentlemen, dear brothers and sisters, welcome to this parallel session of the Government Summit. My name is Turki Al-Dakhil, and I would like to welcome you to this session, which will focus mainly on the opportunities of developing social services in the Arab world. We will have with us Her Excellency Mariam Roumi, Minister of Social Affairs in the United Arab Emirates, and His Excellency Mr. Yusuf from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Her Excellency Reem, Mariam Fatima Balooshi, Minister of Social Development in the Kingdom of Bahrain, and Her Excellency Reem Abu Hassan, Minister of Social Development in the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. We will have about 1 hour and a half. And after the discussion, if you have any question addressed to any of the ministers, I'm surrounded by their excellencies, then we will take your questions. We will start with Dr. Yusuf Al-Othaimeen from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and then we will have a dialogue amongst their excellencies, the ministers. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, brothers and sisters, peace and blessings of God be upon you. Good morning. First, allow me to address my gratitude and heartfelt thanks to the organizers of this conference that is held under the auspices of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, and that gathers a large number of policy makers and decision makers. What is important in this summit is that the social aspect is present, which is not very common in government summits or in summits. We have always been accustomed to hear about politics and economy, but the social dimension has always been left out. And I believe this is the importance of this government summit. Brothers and sisters, taking care of the social dimension in these times of hardships for all the peoples of countries of this area means that all those taking care of social services have the obligation of reviewing the social policies to satisfy the needs and aspiration of our peoples, of our leaders, and that would fit the experiences of our region. And we must work for the best interest of our peoples, as indicated by the slogan of this summit. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and in the Gulf, we have a lot of opportunities and potentials to tap into in what regards social services, and this spared us from the various shocks and troubles that stormed into our region. But before we talk about the opportunities to develop social services, which is the main subject of our session, allow me to list a series of challenges that we face in our region. First of all, unemployment, problems of the most marginalized groups, which demand the speedy intervention, such as divorce, drugs, family, domestic violence, national identity, and other issues, and that put pressure on our societies and which require a very fast intervention by our government. This is why we must all benefit from all opportunities and potentials available, and there are many. And we must do so in an innovative way. The first thing that comes to mind about these opportunities is to invest in new technologies, to improve communication with the beneficiaries. This is what we call the e-government, and government has become a key to allow access to all citizens wherever they are without the need to go physically to social services centers. Many governments created innovative programs. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, you have Yasser, that is an e-program that allows or gives access to e-services to all the citizens and facilitates these services to all citizens. This program allows the citizens to benefit from all guiding, steering services. Then we also have communication with the local communities and through programs of social responsibility. Now, regarding available potentials, first, I think that many ministries of social development in the Arab world face the problem of funding. And I think we should focus on 2 points. First, as zakat. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has a very good experience regarding the collection of zakat or charity money, where we have established a fund for zakat, and from which we fund and finance social services. Another strong point is to benefit from youth potential, because the youth constitutes the largest part of our communities, of our societies. Third, our Islamic and our Arab societies have a strong solidarity or believe in solidarity, and I think this social net, of solidarity can help us provide social services. These are the main guidelines that I wanted to mention. I cannot linger further, but I believe these points are all interlinked. If we use technology and if we use potentials in the framework of a social policy based on social sustainability and social development, and that is not based on a welfare policy, we will be able to deliver social services in the right quality, and we would be able to target the right beneficiaries and those in need. And I hope and I think this will achieve well-being for everyone. And let me tell you that the future is very promising, but we have to seize the opportunity to build it. And thank you. We thank Dr. Yusuf Al-Othaimeen. Before we delve into the details, I would like you to excuse my ignorance and maybe attempt to define what social development is. Mr. Reem Abu Hassan, Minister of Social Development in Jordan, how can you define social development, please? If we want to define the Ministry of Social Development, it is a sovereign ministry because it relates to social and humanitarian security in addition to the Ministry of Interior. But in most countries, the funds allocated to the Ministry of Social Development in the Arab world are not enough and are not sufficient. They are not up to the level that allows us to establish or to install social security or social safety. Social development is, in brief, the services provided by the government to its citizens to promote well-being and to promote good standards of living, as well as social integration away from marginalization. And for social policies are a component of the global governmental policy that ensures the safety and the security for all citizens. Your Excellency, you're saying that the Social Development Ministry is a sovereign ministry. Is it the truth? Is it the reality? it is what's supposed to be, but I do not know if this is the case in reality. But if we want to talk about executive powers in any government, the Ministry of Social Development and the Ministry of Social Affairs is a sovereign ministry, is important ministry because it relates to social security, social humanitarian security, etc. But as I said, in reality, on the ground, the funds allocated to such ministries have never been sufficient in most countries, not in all countries, of course. The budget allocated to these ministries, the budget of these ministries are very modest, actually, compared to, for example, the Ministry of Interior. Your Excellency, Dr. Fatima Al-Balooshi, Minister of Social Development in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Let me ask you this. One of the key indicators to a progress of any country is the progress and is the development of their social services, the level of their social services. Is this the case in the Arab world? Allow me first, says Her Excellency. I'm sorry. We have agreed that everyone will suffice themselves with the word of His Excellency in thanking everyone. So let us not start by thanking everyone here. To go directly to the point. The social development in our Arab world has a big role to play. The Ministry of Social Development cannot provide these social services alone. They are part of a social services network provided by whole government. So when we talk about social services, we talk about a series of ministries that work together hand in hand to provide services such as Ministry of Social Affairs, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, and the Ministry of Education and Health. Because if you want to empower citizens on the social, on a political level, if you want integration, then you have to make sure that your citizens are well in terms of health. So you are ministers of health? No, I mean, not saying that we work with these ministries, says Her Excellencies. Let us not mistake our role and think that we are the only ones providing services, social services. But when we talk about social development, I think that in some countries, the ministries were used to call ministries of social affairs, and others, the ministries are called ministries of social development. So when we talk about social development, we provide services in social protection and protecting marginalized and weak categories that are more prone to health issues, disabilities, violence, etc. So we try to protect these. We provide protection measures to these marginalized groups, and what we do is try to invest socially in these categories to develop these categories, and this is what we talk about when we talk about sustainable development. We work in order for these marginalized categories to overcome their disabilities, their problems, their obstacles, to be integrated in their societies. Allow me, Your Excellency, to pause for a minute. When we talk about people with special needs, not to call them the disabled, we call them people with disabilities. We will not differ over the vocabulary or terminology, but let me ask you, are the services provided to those people with special needs, to those disabled, services that can allow them to become regular citizens or normal citizens? Let us be clear. The Arab countries, the Arab world is divided into many groups and categories. We have what we call the GCC countries, where services are very different from services provided in the MENA region in North Africa. So each group of countries has its own characteristics, has its own economic situation, or a global situation in general, not to talk about the economic situation alone. When I talk about usually the GCC countries. The GCC have come a long way in achieving the Millennium Development Goals. We can say that the GCC countries have achieved most of these development goals, whereas other Arab countries have been unable to do so. In Bahrain, for example, illiteracy is almost, we have almost put an end to illiteracy. I mean, literacy, reading and writing skills, yes. We're not talking about computer literacy. What I mean by literacy is reading and writing skills. For example, the Kingdom of Bahrain, 99% of the population knows how to read and write. I'm talking about the Arab world, says the moderator. Yes, exactly. In some countries, there are 80% of citizens who are illiterate, but you might find this problem in one country and not find it in another. So we cannot talk about the whole Arab world as one basket. Your Excellency, Mrs. Mariam Roumi, while we were preparing for this session, we said that ministries of social development, as Her Excellency Reem Abu Hassan already mentioned, are not provided with the adequate budget and funding that would allow it to perform as required. Ms. Mariam said that you said that the UAE and United Arab Emirates, half of the budget is given to social development. May you talk to us a little bit about social affairs in United Arab Emirates? Good morning, in the name of God, the most gracious and merciful. Regarding United Arab Emirates, we have always given priority to social development. If we look at the budget, take a look at the budget of 2014 to 2016, the federal budget is 140 billion dirham. 51% of this budget goes to social development directly. And social development does not mean the Ministry of Social Affairs. It includes also the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and other ministries that deliver social services. So it's not the Ministry of Social Affairs only. No, it's not, says Her Excellency. So if we look at the budget provided to social services, we believe that we can say that the policy of the government is social, is addressed to social development by excellency. So this means that this sector, has a very high importance in the eyes of the government. The United Arab Emirates focused on quality in all services and mostly in social services, because social services relate to well-being and security of the citizens. Excuse me, Ms. Mariam. We can have a welfare state with well-being, yes. United Arab States, we have mixed between the welfare role of the government and the development role of the government or of the state. So the state will always take care and provide welfare to those who need it, but with the aim of allowing these categories to develop and integrate society. You mentioned in the beginning of your question to Ms. Reem the definition of development. Development is empowering people, training people, using the potential of these people and developing them in order for them to have alternatives, in order for them to be allowed to choose the way they want to go on in their life. That's why we can say the United Arab Emirates have mixed welfare with development, because we wanted to move from welfare to social development gradually. So social development and social services are given high priority in the United Arab Emirates. And to go back to the quality of social services, we can say that the state insisted on providing quality social services because the relation between the state and the people depends on their welfare, on their well-being. One question. When we talk about GCC countries, when we talk about social services, we say that the welfare state does not distinguish between the needs of people. That's why people who are very well off can be provided with the same services as people who are in need, as an individual who is in need. Social services in the United Arab Emirates are based on rights. They are right-based. We might provide one kind of services to all people. This is what we call social justice, to provide a service to everyone, but according to everyone's needs. So you provide people with this ability, with the needs according to their needs, or provide services according to their needs. There is no taxation in the CC countries. So how can you tell if I should give you, for example, give someone social security to someone while someone has shares in a telecom company? There is what we call a networking with other ministries and with other bodies to prove whether this person has high revenue or low revenue. So we know the revenue person, and that person will give the assistance he needs. So for people who have no other revenue, we provide them with the right social assistance. And just to let you know, we have no ceiling for social assistance by number of people in the family. The Kuwait put a ceiling. The UAE gives assistance to everyone in the family. So someone can marry 60 women and have 500 children and still get social assistance. Yes, if he has no revenue, no income, then we provide the social assistance to that kind of families. But allow me to say that since we're talking about leadership in social services, let me talk about social security. Social security in the past used to provide cash to citizens in need. Now we have moved to another stage, and we did that, I think, some years ago. So now social assistance is given to the beneficiary through a smart card that he can use in the ATM at any time. And the ATM, as you know, are widespread everywhere in the United Arab Emirates. So technologically, there's a great advancement, yes. Dr. Al-Othaimeen. Scandinavian countries are always a model of high-quality social services in the world. What prevents you from adopting the models of Scandinavian social services in the Arab world? As you mentioned, Scandinavian countries are benchmark and a role model in the provision of social services for the disabled, for the elderly, for all the categories. This requires 3 points to provide this high quality of services. First, you have to have good funding. This sector must be well funded, and in the Scandinavian countries, as you know, funding of such services depends on taxes. or are related to taxes. And there is a social belief that the marginalized need and deserve such assistance. So are you saying that we have a problem in funding in GCC? No. No, we're talking about the Arab world in general, not about the GCC countries only. What prevents the GCC country then from being as good as the Scandinavian countries? Money cannot buy anything, says His Excellency. You need expertise, you need qualifications, high human resources that are able to deal with these categories. And third, the third dimension I wanted to talk about and focus on is the question of the family. When we talk about the government provision of government services and welfare government, we've noticed that the family is relinquishing its role in taking care of the needy. Even in Scandinavian countries, there is this interaction between social services institutions and between the families. And these are the requirements for good social services. Of course, we have not reached this level, the level of Scandinavian countries. Excuse me to interrupt, but regarding the role of the family, we know that solidarity is high in the Arab world, to the point that it has become a negative point, because you can be 35 years old and remain in the house of in your father's house and remain at his expense. So we do have this family tie. That is true, says His Excellency, but I think there is a lack of interaction and between the social service institutions and the families. I think this has become apparent. Our countries, there are a lot of families who abandon the elderly, who abandon the children with disabilities and just put them in institutions without any further follow-up. So there must be a balance between family and welfare. I think this is the formula that would allow social policies to be successful in the GCC countries and in the Arab world. Thank you. Ms. Reem Abu Hassan, what are the models? I'm sorry, you're talking about developing services. What have you provided in Jordan that you can talk to us about regarding provision of social services? Thank you for your question, says Her Excellencies. Sir Excellency, I would like to have a brief comment about what you mentioned regarding Scandinavian countries. We are always talking about the welfare, but what we have is welfare state, which means that individuals and families, even in Jordan, the moderator asks, I think in most Arab countries, the state is a welfare state, which means that there is complete dependency on the state, on the government, on the public sector to provide services, whether the person has good income, high income, or whether he has low income. And I think this is the main challenge in the face of social policies. If we want our Arab world to have social justice and social equity and equality, we must move from this welfare state to the empowering state. So I think the problem is within the people, not within the government. I'm speaking on behalf of everyone here. I think what we face is what we face in the ministries of social affairs, social development. People expect to have social assistance services regardless of their income. This is what we suffer from. This is due to the fact that there is great belief that the state should provide for its citizens. Another point is that in Jordan, we have limited resources, and we admit that, but we also have great innovative powers, and we have great leading projects and innovative projects. And here, allow me to say that the models that we have developed in the Kingdom of Jordan were due to great the demographic growth, especially with the coming of Syrian refugees that increased population by 20%. So we have at the same time an opportunity where people between 15 and 64 years old can all be employed. Otherwise, they would become a curse. So we provide social services in the Ministry of Social Development for people with disabilities, for victims of violence, for youth, for the marginalized, for weak categories, and poor families. What are those innovative approaches? In fact, we have a leading experience in protecting the family from domestic violence. We have domestic violence institutions that received the United Nations Prize for social services. We have also Oh, I misunderstood you. I thought you were talking about that. No, we also have a program to host children from unknown fathers. That is also Pioneer Project. And we also provide housing for poor families, because we believe that houses are reasons behind stability, are a good foundation for stability. And also we talked about cash assistance. We provide cash assistance families of 4 people. We provide 180 dinars as a recurrent assistance, which is a low sum. This equates $300. In the black market, the moderator says, no, according to international exchange rates, says Her Excellency. We have 14% poverty rate, and we are able to provide a recurrent cash assistance to only 350,000 people. 55% of them are women, divorced women, widows, or women, wives of non-Jordanians. This cash assistance is what they call in Jordan the social ministry salary. It is not a salary. It is just a relief assistance that might be recurrent, but it's not a salary. But this takes us back to the belief that people think they are entitled to such assistance. Now, regarding e-government and the Ministry of Social Development, in order for us to check the income of the person before giving him the cash assistance, we have electronic networking with many institutions through which we can identify the person, his income, the kind of vehicles he owns, the real estate he might own, etc. And also we want to check we might check if the person has agricultural assistance, if he is a farmer, for example, and that will prevent him from having cash assistance. So instead of asking the individual to go from one institution to another to bring a paper to prove his income, we have e-networking to do that. A last question. We know the sufferings of the ministries, which are always asked to provide further assistance by the citizens. But also we must apologize from our citizens because of the widespread corruption in our governments. Because if the citizens look at how much money is being spent and wasted, then no wonder they will ask for more. Thank you for your applause, but I'm not trying to get your attention. I'm just trying to be realistic, says the moderator. Your Excellency, Dr. Fatima Al-Balooshi, you have a leading experience in Bahrain. Can you give us an overview of your experience in Bahrain, and what do you think are the negative aspects of your services? In 1 minute. 30 seconds, then. Allow me to mention some experiences that might be future solutions. But there is a key point mentioned. There is not one mold, a ready-made solution for all countries. We cannot say, since the Scandinavian countries have a good experience, that I just copy and paste their experience. I think even if you have a good experience from one of the GCC countries, you cannot copy-paste it into another GCC country, because each country has its own characteristic and situation. There are models just to learn from. I believe that. In our countries, in our Arab world, as Her Excellency Muslim said, we are a welfare state. We provide direct and indirect support to our citizens. The direct assistance is a handful of dollars, but the indirect assistance are millions of dollars to subsidize petrol, gas, electricity, health, education, flour, meat, etc. We spend billions of dollars in subsidies. In all the Arab countries, this exists as part of their budget. This is what we call indirect support. So when you come to pay electricity bill in Saudi Arabia or in Bahrain, what you're paying is 10% of the bill, of the real cost. In Dubai, I pay high bill because I'm not a citizen. But for citizens in the country, I think in Dubai you don't even pay citizen. In the Kingdom of Bahrain, the bill is same for citizens and non-citizens. The price of meat, of petroleum, of gas is the same for citizens and non-citizens. This is a real problem. We want to target the right beneficiaries with the support. We want to give support to the right category of people. And the problem is that when we provide free electricity or cheap electricity, then people will consume more. They will not care about switching off the air condition or the power switches, etc. And we have fostered in our citizens this culture of overspending and wasting power and wasting energy because they do not know the cost of these services. So I think this must stop, and we must provide maybe cash. This is just being debated. This is what the Scandinavian countries do because they impose taxes. They take a large sum of the taxes to pour them into social services, very good services. What is the characteristic of your social services? Because if I give you more time, you will not finish, says the moderator. I think in the Kingdom of Bahrain, we are trying to allow the participation of citizens. We started a leading experience in 2006, a program that we called social participation. I'm talking about our own ministries, but there are other also partnerships. We have the program is called Partnership, Social Partnership, which allows some local institutions or organizations to manage the ministries. Can you give us an example? For example, we have an Amman shelter. We have a women's shelter that is administered by an NGO. I give them the funding, but it's the NGO that recruits and that manages and administrates this shelter. So instead of allowing the institutions or the NGOs to give lectures, to hold conferences, etc., I allow them to participate with me in the administration of key services. The problem is that, are they monitored? Yes. I monitor. There's always visits. There are indicators, reports that they are requested to provide. There is also a joint administration board. I have 6 services administered and managed by NGOs. Also, we have established a fund for social work in which we allowed institutions to create projects contributing to social development. So what we have, daily care for the elderly, where we bring the elderly from morning to noon. These institutions are funded by this fund that we established with the contribution of the private sector and the government at the same time. This fund finances such projects for the elderly, and there is a great funding provided by the state. This is a leading project because when communities, when civil society starts to participate with me instead of criticizing what I do, then he becomes my partners, and then they would know what we are facing in terms of problems, and they would come to think with us about how to develop our social service. This is one example. This is one we want to focus on in the future, which by me, what I mean is partnership. So you look forward to improving and reinforcing this partnership between the civil society and the government. Ms. Mariam Roumi.
What are you offering in the UAE, and you think that the transfer of experience to other countries, what can it add? You should tell us what are the negativities, and of course it is difficult to say the negativities. No, every work has a positive and negative aspect. This does not mean, if we acknowledge the negative aspect, that we are really looking backwards. No, we should turn it into something positive. As for the UAE, the best practices and successful experiences in the world should be adopted. Always when we really offer any project or any new program, the ministry attracts the successful programs and some of the best practices where it looks at through its visits. The internet provides all sorts of information in this regard. We have lots of samples that we have really adopted from the Scandinavian countries, especially that these countries base their own social development services on both factors, the comprehensiveness of these services and as well as focusing on really weak parts of the society, such as the impaired. We are privileged in the quality of life. We should have a certain quality of life that add to those people a good sense of life. We have attracted some of the successful experiences from the Scandinavian countries, and we have adopted it in the UAE. We have the smart systems for the disabled children, where their whole body is disabled. They cannot really move their head and their feet and their hands as well. So we really attracted or brought forward some of the examples. We have really taken care of the quality where we brought the service. Of course, this is not implemented on the society, but we take the best practices to adopt it according to the society. The services offered to the elderly in the Scandinavian countries are offered through daycare and pension centers, where the government brings them to these pension centers. We are not taking all this model as a whole, but we have taken a part of it where the elderly, and we really insist on that, should stay within the family. So we really established an ambulatory unit care through all the Emirates. This service is a car. It has a complete team, specialists in nutrition, specialists in therapy, specialists, a nurse, and so on and so forth. They carry out visits to the houses of the elderly and offer services there. In addition to that, there are some of the centers, special centers to the elderly that are considered as daycares, where the elderly comes in the morning and leaves in the evening. We at the Social Development Service, we have only one center where the elderly sleep in this center in Ajman. We have set certain restrictions to this center. Certain Scandinavian countries are very developed in the social experiences. In particular, we are taking these experiences but adopting it according to the UAE aspects. What is the negative aspect in the applications and the implementations of the social development aspect in the UAE, and you look forward to improve it? We are facing lots of problems, as Dr. Reem has mentioned. The social assistance, where everybody thinks that the culture of the society thinks that this is an acquired right. We should not really comment on it. We are not really cutting this social assistance, but we have a program where it is called Al-Amalu Hayat, work is life, where we are encouraging those who are capable of working, those who are getting the social assistance through training programs by the ministry. We are training them, we employ them. After employing them, we end their social assistance. So they refuse to work. This is the negative aspect, even if they want to get from this job more than what they're getting as social assistance. This is a problem in reality. This is the culture of public funding. It's a welfare country, and therefore they think that they deserve this amount of money, regardless if there are people more in need of this assistance than they are. This is a very negative thing, in my opinion. To motivate them to work, is it possible that you can really decrease their financial assistance? We have really offered a program for the ministry to decrease the assistance into half, to give them a training opportunity, and they refuse it. When they get a training opportunity and they refuse it, an employment opportunity, and they refuse it, the assistance will be decreased. There was a kind of media avalanche against this. What do you mean by media avalanche, Your Excellency? When this decision was implemented, there was a negative reaction from the Emirati society, because the Emirati society is based on a welfare society, and they think that the country should really take care of its citizens and should not really decreasing their financial assistance, even if they have job opportunities. So the citizen has changed the ministerial decision, and through using this media avalanche. The culture of work is very important in the social development. If there is no culture in this respect, whether private or public sectors, within individuals themselves, the government cannot really do its own development work without help from the individuals. In the terminology of development, we should really empower them in the beginning through developing their own capabilities, raising awareness, disseminating this culture. The government wants to engage all these individuals. Getting the financial assistance means that there are lots of capabilities which are not really known in the society. The UAE society is walking very, very smoothly and not as quick as we wanted. So they get the social assistance and they don't want to get out of the social development. I would like to mention that in the presence of Sheikh Mohammed, he has cancelled the governmental decision because he aims in all his social policies to make people happy. This has really bothered people because and this is what he doesn't want. He wants people always to be happy. I don't think there is much time concerning this session. Dr. Maithi, how do you look at the future services that should be offered as social development in the Arab world? And you have 1 minute kindly to answer. If you want, we can really answer this great question. Your 1 minute is over, sir. I think that developing the electronic services where the citizen can really reach these services offered by the government in a manner which protects dignity in a decent manner. And from here, you mean that he will still save face when he's asking for financial assistance? Of course, definitely, if this is what we wanted whilst offering social services, I think the issue of the electronic government to turn into smart government, which includes offering all services that make people happy and working through electronic portals. This is of vital importance out of the experiences from all the Arab countries where technology and technique is of vital importance in giving social services. Most of the people benefiting from these social services are the weak parts of the family. They cannot reach these social assistance and financial assistance. There's a difference between those offering and between the country. When the government is the mediator, it gets rid of bad behavior and some of the phenomena of corruption. Thank you, Doctor. Reem Abu Hassan, Dr. Reem Abu Hassan, what are your aspirations for future services that the Arab world can offer in social development? In reality, we at the Ministry of Social Development in Jordan, we want to level up with the social development to reach the concept of social work, the professional organized social work, where we are talking about the institution of the institutional work. We want to talk about a union which takes care of social experts. We train them to get a license. Yes, we are working on that, and that's why I'm talking about the future. Because the issue of professionalism, having a union, having diplomas that enable them to carry out their profession, accountability, those who are working in the field of social development, is one of the reasons, one of the phenomena to level up with the social development and not the service in itself. What do you mean by accountability? Accountability, as is at the bar, any person who commits any violation, there is a council which puts this person into accountable. So if we level up to the level of accountability, we should really find the institutional framework for those people, and therefore we put them accountable if they violate a certain thing. Yes, definitely. One concerning social services and social development, this does not mean that there should be a violation or a crime, so we go or resort to a court. Sometimes there might be a violation for a certain ethical issue, for the principles of service, and therefore there should be a party where this social expert could resort to, and this party can put him into accountable. So accountability, in your opinion, can level up professionalism. Of course, accountability is of vital importance, in addition to the institutional framework to defend the interests of social experts. Dr. Fatima, the same question. As I mentioned in the beginning, the ministries of social development are an integral part of a governmental system which offers services to the citizens. We are talking about the network of social protection. This social protection should be improved, should really merge between all ministries. Every ministry should not work in itself. They should all work together and coordinate together. Not only to coordinate, there should be a comprehensive, integral system. If we, let's say, if something happens at the Ministry of Labor, this should be linked to the Ministry of Social Development. All these problems should be solved in a coordinating manner between all ministries. We name it a network of social protection. We should really improve it through three different things, three different words: flexibility, justice, and giving an opportunity. Perhaps we might explain it further, but we have no time. And definitely it is just to say that this network of social protection demands that funds should be allocated for these problems. The database should be unified between all ministries. As long as it is divided between all ministries, we cannot get all information we want. There should be an information system developed, as said, to really preserve the dignity of the citizen. We should be prompt in our response to the needs of the citizen. In this manner, if we are not prompt, we will be in trouble. The promptness is of vital importance. And this should all be put in a unified system, a network of social protection. And this is what we've been talking about. Dr. Roumi, as for my future perspective to the sectors of social development and social services, I hope that there will be true partnership between three sectors, because social services, I'm talking here about the government and the civil society, private and public sectors alike. Yes, we call it the establishments of social or civil society institutions. So the private sector has this professionalism and the quality of the services rendered. They have the human cadre represented in the volunteers who have all the experiences that can give consultations and expertise. I think our future work would be true partnership, through strategic partnership between all these sectors. The government will be giving their social services to these sectors along with the government funding, putting certain conditions for these services according to or under the umbrella of the government. what do you mean by overseeing and accountability? This service has certain criteria, and this is of vital importance. I expect the services should be franchised in the future, which means that the government will be marketing these services through the companies of the private sector. I should mention here that we have very successful experiences. The officers to facilitate or officers related to the Ministry of Labour, not the Ministry of Social Services, part in the Ministry of Labour. This amalgamation that Dr. Fatima Al-Balooshi has spoken about, I think that there will be marketing for the services of the government by the private sector, and to offer direct service by the private sector and the public sector, but with the funding from the governmental sector. I think that these social services have been branched out. I think there should be specialties, I think, in each sector. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence. I would like to thank Dr. Yusuf Al-Othaimeen, Mrs. Reem Abu Hassan, Dr. Fatima Al-Balooshi, and Mrs. Mariam Al-Roumi. Thank you all for your kind attention, and peace be upon you all.